The world that early humans inherited during the Ice Age was a stark and unforgiving place, a landscape dominated by snow, glaciers, and bitter winds that cut through even the thickest animal hides. For our ancestors, survival was not guaranteed. Each day presented the challenge of finding food, shelter, and warmth in an environment that was relentless in its hostility. Vast expanses of frozen tundra stretched for hundreds of miles, dotted only with hardy vegetation, and the tracks of creatures that roamed in search of sustenance. In this frozen expanse, life and death were often separated by the thinnest of margins. A mishunt, an unprepared shelter, or a sudden blizzard could tip the balance irrevocably. The Ice Age was not a single event, but a series of glacial and interglacial periods, each bringing dramatic shifts in climate that forced early humans to constantly adapt. Temperatures plummeted, sometimes dropping dozens of degrees below what we consider survivable today. Rivers froze, lakes turned to solid ice, and snowfall could bury the landscape in meters of white silence. Yet, even in this extreme cold, life persisted. Herds of mammoths, reindeer, and other large herbivores grazed on the hardy grasses that poked through the snow, their migrations shaping the patterns of human hunters. Predators, too, adapted, following the movement of prey and creating a constant threat for humans navigating this frozen world. Survival was a delicate dance, a combination of observation, intuition, and instinct honed over generations. Our story begins not with a single hero, but with small, interconnected bands of early humans who were learning, through trial and error, how to endure the Ice Age. They were pioneers of resilience, developing strategies and tools that would allow them to coexist with a landscape that offered both danger and opportunity. The contrast between the vulnerability of the human body and the harshness of the Ice Age environment underscores the epic struggle at the heart of this period. Their lives were shaped by cycles of scarcity and abundance, by sudden threats of frostbite or starvation, and by moments of triumph when a successful hunt or a well-insulated shelter turned a night of terror into one of warmth and safety. Anthropologists and paleontologists have pieced together evidence from fossilized bones, cave paintings, and stone tools, revealing a picture of humans who were both fragile and remarkably resourceful. Early humans had to understand the rhythms of the natural world, the movement of animal herds, the growth cycles of edible plants, and the signs of impending storms. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next was a matter of survival, embedded not in written words, but in observation, practice, and oral storytelling. The ability to anticipate danger and exploit opportunity was crucial, as mistakes could lead to immediate death in a landscape where exposure to cold alone could be fatal within hours. Yet, for all its cruelty, the Ice Age also shaped human ingenuity and social cohesion. Communities huddled together in caves or constructed primitive shelters, finding warmth not only in fires but in the bodies of loved ones. Fire became both a physical shield against frost and a symbolic hearth around which stories were told and social bonds reinforced. In the deepest winter nights, the glow of a fire in a dark cave offers semblance of security, a fragile but essential triumph over the omnipresent threat of cold. This interplay between environmental threat and human innovation would define the survival strategies of Ice Age humans, creating patterns of life that would echo through generations. The frozen world was also a stage of extraordinary contrasts: silence and storm, vulnerability and mastery, death and the hard-won comfort of a safe shelter. The very existence of early humans in these extreme conditions is a testament to adaptability, resourcefulness, and determination. Each decision, from selecting the location of a shelter to planning the route of a hunt, carried weighty consequences. The environment demanded attentiveness, courage, and creativity, forging a species capable of extraordinary resilience. As we peer back through time, it becomes clear that entering the Ice Age was not merely a physical journey, but a psychological and social one as well. Humans had to navigate fear and uncertainty while developing systems of cooperation and knowledge sharing that could ensure the survival of their group. The frozen beginning of this story sets the tone for the epic struggle that follows, a struggle defined by both the cruelty of nature and the ingenuity of humans who refuse to surrender to it. It is in this landscape of ice and adversity that the remarkable tale of human survival and adaptation unfolds, a tale that will take us from the frozen tundra to the warmth of fires, from the dangers of hunting to the rituals that celebrated life itself. In the relentless cold of the Ice Age, the human body was both fragile and astonishingly resilient. Early humans were not naturally equipped to withstand the bitter temperatures that could plunge dozens of degrees below freezing. Yet through adaptation, ingenuity, and instinct, they managed to survive, and sometimes even thrive, in environments that would have claimed the lives of those unprepared. Unlike the thick fur of mammoths or the insulating fat of reindeer, humans had minimal natural protection. Every exposed inch of skin was vulnerable to frostbite, and hypothermia could set in within hours during a blizzard. Understanding the human body's limitations and learning how to protect it became a matter of life or death. One of the key aspects of survival was the body's ability to generate and retain heat. Early humans likely had higher basal metabolic rates than modern populations, helping them produce the warmth necessary to endure freezing nights. Fat, though less pronounced than in some Arctic animals, serve as an essential insulator, concentrated especially around vital organs. Additionally, the muscular activity required for hunting, gathering, and movement through deep snow generated warmth, linking physical labor directly to survival. Yet, these natural defenses were insufficient on their own, demanding that humans develop complementary strategies to prevent exposure and conserve heat. Clothing, although primitive, was revolutionary in its impact. Layers of animal hides, fur, and even carefully arranged leaves or grasses acted as insulation, trapping body heat while shielding against icy winds. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans were capable of tanning hides, sewing them together with bone needles, and creating garments that could be adjusted according to weather conditions. The contrast is striking. A naked human in the tundra would succumb rapidly to frost, yet one carefully wrapped in multiple layers of hides could withstand night-long storms. These garments were more than simple protection. They were an extension of the body, a tool of survival crafted through observation, experimentation, and inherited knowledge. Another critical adaptation was behavioral. Humans instinctively sought shelter during the coldest periods, clustering near fires or inside caves where temperatures were marginally more stable. By huddling together, communities reduced heat loss, transforming social bonds into a literal survival mechanism. Infants, children, and the elderly, who were most vulnerable to the cold, were kept close to the warmth of bodies and fire, demonstrating an early understanding of both communal care and practical thermoregulation. In this way, survival was not purely biological. It was social and cultural, rooted in collaboration and attentiveness to the needs of the group. The human body also adapted over time to these extreme conditions. Studies of skeletal remains suggest changes in limb proportions and bone density that facilitated heat retention and endurance in cold climates. Hands and feet, often first affected by frostbite, were protected through habitual layering, movement, and constant vigilance. Early humans understood instinctively the signs of hypothermia and frostbite, responded with preventive measures like additional clothing, increased caloric intake, or strategic relocation to more sheltered terrain. The body and mind worked in tandem, a system of observation, intuition, and learned response that bridged the gap between vulnerability and survival. Nutrition played a central role in maintaining body heat. High-calorie diets, rich in fats and proteins, were essential to fuel the body's metabolic furnace. Hunting large animals for fatty meat was not only about sustenance, but also about generating warmth internally. Meanwhile, stored or preserved food ensured that even in periods of scarcity, the human body could continue functioning under extreme stress. The contrast between the empty stomach and the metabolic energy required to stay warm illustrates the delicate balance early humans maintained. One miscalculation could lead to exhaustion, hypothermia, and death. Psychology, too, influenced survival. Fear of the cold, of exposure, and of predators prompted behaviors that increased chances of survival. Anxiety about frostbite or starvation drove the development of clothing, fire use, and shelter construction. Early humans had to remain constantly vigilant, balancing exploration and foraging with safety and rest. The mind became a tool as essential as the body itself, shaping decisions that could determine the survival of an individual or an entire band. The contrast between panic and strategic action demonstrates how cognitive skills evolve in response to environmental pressures. Ultimately, the anatomy of survival was an intricate dance of biology, behavior, and innovation. The human body, while not inherently equipped for the extremes of the Ice Age, became a versatile instrument in the hands of species capable of learning, observing, and creating. Early humans combined their limited natural defenses with fire, clothing, shelter, social bonds, and nutrition to transform vulnerability into resilience. Each adaptation, physical, mental, or cultural, represented a victory against the icy world outside, turning the simple act of enduring the cold into a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The story of human anatomy versus the cold is not merely one of biological adaptation, but of survival intelligence. By understanding their bodies and the environment, early humans transformed what could have been a season of inevitable death into a series of challenges that could be met, managed, and ultimately overcome. In this icy crucible, the foundations of human resilience, creativity, and cooperation were forged, setting the stage for the next crucial element in survival, the harnessing of fire, a force that would redefine the relationship between humans and the cold forever. Fire, the flickering heart of early human survival, was more than just warmth. It was a line between life and death during the bitterest nights of the Ice Age. Imagine a frozen landscape, where snow stretches endlessly and temperatures plunge well below what the human body can endure. In such a world, fire became humanity's first true defense, a radiant glow that could stave off frost, illuminate darkness, and create a space where survival and social life intertwined. Early humans learned to harness this force not by chance, but through observation, experimentation, and profound understanding of their environment. It was the first tool that allowed humans to assert some control over nature, transforming nights of terror into moments of relative safety and comfort. Initially, fire was likely captured from natural sources, lightning strikes igniting dry brush or volcanic activity sparking small flames. Early humans observed these natural fires and recognized both the danger and the potential they held. Over generations, they discovered methods to preserve fire, keeping embers alive through cold nights and even transporting them across distances. The ability to maintain a fire created an entirely new dynamic. Humans were no longer passive participants in the icy world, subject to its whims. Instead, they could actively shape their surroundings, creating warmth, light, and protection when nature itself seemed intent on extinguishing life. The benefits of fire extended far beyond physical warmth. Around its flickering light, early humans could gather, eat, and socialize in ways impossible in the open cold. Fire allowed the cooking of meat, making food more digestible and calories more accessible, which was crucial for survival in freezing conditions. Cooking not only provided energy but also reduced the risk of illness from raw meat, extending life expectancy and enhancing overall health. It created a rhythm to daily life, a central point around which the tasks of hunting, preparation, and rest could revolve. The stark contrast between the bone-chilling cold outside and the cozy, illuminated circle around a fire cannot be overstated. It was a tangible boundary between danger and safety, chaos and order. Fire also served as a deterrent against predators. In a landscape where wolves, bears, and other carnivores roamed the frozen plains, the glow and warmth of fire created a protective radius, allowing humans to sleep, eat, and plan with reduced fear. The flames became a psychological shield as much as a physical one. Their presence imbued humans with a sense of control in an otherwise uncontrollable environment. Even small sparks could instill confidence, reinforcing the bond between survival and ingenuity. Without fire, the nights would have been mercilessly long and silent, filled with unseen threats and the constant gnawing of cold. With fire, early humans reclaimed the night, turning it into a manageable, even communal, space. Mastering fire required a deep understanding of materials and timing. Early humans learned which types would burn longest, which furs and grasses could ignite sparks, and how to protect embers from wind and moisture. They developed techniques to produce fire themselves, using friction-based tools like hand drills and bow drills, a remarkable testament to human ingenuity and patience. Each successful flame represented knowledge passed from one generation to the next, forming an unbroken chain of survival wisdom. This mastery also had social implications. Those skilled in creating and maintaining fire were central to the group's well-being, gaining status and respect, as fire literally kept the community alive. Fire transformed caves and shelters from mere refuge into functional homes. Smoke from controlled fire helped repel insects, preserve food through slow roasting or drying, and even create a medium for early artistic expression on cave walls. The dancing shadows cast by flames gave rise to storytelling, ritual, and symbolic thought. turning survival into culture. There was a profound duality in fire. It was at once practical and symbolic, functional and inspiring, a bridge between human biology and human imagination. The warmth it provided mirrored the warmth of social cohesion, reinforcing bonds between family members and communal groups. Yet fire demanded respect. Mismanagement could lead to destruction, injury, or death. Early humans learned to balance risk and reward, developing routines for tending hearths, positioning shelters to avoid sparks, and ensuring embers did not die when most needed. This discipline reflects the intricate relationship between humans and their environment. Every advantage had a corresponding responsibility. Fire was not just a tool. It was a responsibility, a companion that demanded attention, knowledge, and respect. In the bitterest nights, when snow drifted against cave entrances and the wind howled across frozen plains, the difference between survival and death often rested in the careful tending of a few glowing embers. The psychological impact of fire cannot be overstated. Its light and warmth transformed fear into confidence, solitude into companionship, and vulnerability into agency. Humans could plan for the future, share knowledge, and cultivate community, all within the protective embrace of fire. Nights that would have otherwise been filled with terror became opportunities for growth, learning, and celebration. Fire enabled humans to extend activity into darkness, cook and preserve food, and ward off predators, fundamentally redefining what it meant to live in a frozen world. Fire was humanity's first triumph over the cold, a tool that shaped biology, behavior, and culture. It allowed humans to move beyond mere survival into adaptation, ingenuity, and eventually mastery over their environment. The interplay between flame and frost, warmth and exposure, life and death, encapsulates the essence of human resilience in the Ice Age. Every spark tells a story of creativity, of courage, and of the enduring human spirit. In essence, fire did more than preserve life. It preserved hope. It was the first bridge between instinct and intellect, between mere existence and thriving under the harshest conditions. As the glowing embers illuminated the darkened caves of the Ice Age, they revealed a profound truth. Survival was not only about endurance, but about the ingenuity to harness the forces of nature. The mastery of fire would lay the foundation for everything that followed: tools, shelters, social structures, and even rituals, marking the beginning of a distinctly human dominion over the cold. In the relentless grip of the Ice Age, survival demanded more than instinct. It required ingenuity. Early humans were confronted with an environment that offered no mercy: biting winds, drifting snow, and sub-zero temperatures that could freeze flesh within hours. In response, they became inventors, engineers, and artisans, fashioning tools and clothing that transformed vulnerability into resilience. Every sewn hide, every sharpened stone, every improvised implement represented an act of defiance against the harshness of nature. These innovations were not mere conveniences. They were lifelines, turning the raw, frozen world into a manageable, habitable space. Clothing was the first and most immediate tool for combating the cold. Early humans observed the insulation provided by animal fur and fat, learning to replicate these natural defenses. They created layered garments from hides, furs, and even grasses, stitching them together with sinew and bone needles. The arrangement of layers was deliberate, designed to trap body heat while preventing exposure to icy winds. Mittens, boots, and hoods likely evolved as specialized adaptations for extremities most vulnerable to frostbite. The process of crafting clothing demanded patience, skill, and experimentation, highlighting the fusion of observation, creativity, and necessity. The contrast is stark. Without these garments, the human body would succumb to hypothermia within hours. With them, early humans could endure and explore. Tools, too, were essential extensions of survival. Stone, bone, and antler were transformed into versatile implements for hunting, skinning, cutting, and constructing shelters. Flint was sharpened into knives and spearheads, while bone needles enabled the creation of fitted clothing that could withstand winter's cruelty. Even simple tools were profoundly effective, reducing effort, improving efficiency, and increasing the likelihood of survival. The ingenuity of early humans is evident in their ability to select materials that offered durability and insulation, and to shape them with precision, using techniques that require both dexterity and foresight. Each tool was a small but crucial victory over the unforgiving environment. The creation of clothing and tools was inseparable from understanding animal behavior and the natural environment. Hides had to be selected from suitable animals, properly cured to prevent decay, and manipulated with care to maintain warmth and flexibility. Similarly, tools were crafted with knowledge of stone properties, bone density, and the specific requirements of hunting or shelter construction. This intimate connection between humans and nature illustrates a sophisticated ecological intelligence. Survival depended not on domination alone, but on observation, adaptation, and the ability to transform natural resources into functional extensions of the body. The innovation extended to shelters and protected constructions. While caves offer natural refuge, they were not always available or sufficient, prompting early humans to engineer portable and semi-permanent structures. Wooden frameworks covered with hides or reeds created insulated huts that could be relocated as herds migrated or snow drifts buried previous sites. The construction of such shelters required coordination, planning, and collaboration, demonstrating how tools and clothing were part of a larger system of survival that integrated knowledge, social organization, and environmental mastery. Every sewn seam, every sharpened edge, and every carefully layered garment tells a story of experimentation, trial and error, and adaptation. Early humans learned quickly which methods worked and which failed, passing this knowledge to the next generation through practice and demonstration. The continuity of this knowledge allowed for incremental improvement over time, creating increasingly sophisticated tools and clothing capable of withstanding the harshest winters. The contrast between primitive improvisation and deliberate craftsmanship underscores the intelligence and creativity inherent in human survival strategies. Fire, clothing, and tools were interconnected. A sharpened spear allowed for successful hunting, providing meat and fat for energy and insulation. Sewn furs preserved body heat, and fire amplified both, allowing humans to dry hides, cook food, and generate warmth. Each innovation reinforced the others, creating a web of survival strategies that amplified human resilience. This synergy between tools, clothing, and fire represents a fundamental principle of Ice Age survival. Humans did not merely endure the environment. They actively shaped it to meet their needs. Importantly, these innovations were not only practical, but also influenced social structures. Individuals skilled in crafting tools or clothing held critical roles within their communities. Their knowledge ensured the survival of the group, giving them status, respect, and sometimes authority. The act of creation was simultaneously personal and communal, blending necessity with social cohesion. Survival was not a solitary endeavor. It was a networked, collective effort, strengthened by the ingenuity and craftsmanship of each member. The ingenuity of early humans also fostered psychological resilience. Mastering the ability to create protective clothing and functional tools instilled confidence, turning fear of the cold into a manageable challenge. Each innovation was a tangible assertion of control over an otherwise hostile environment. The sense of agency created by crafting tools and clothing reinforced cooperation, teaching, and problem-solving, essential skills for enduring not only winter, but the unpredictable hazards of the Ice Age world. Ultimately, the crafting of tools and clothing exemplifies the transformative power of human intelligence in the face of adversity. Early humans turned natural materials into life-saving instruments, bridging the gap between fragility and resilience. In doing so, they laid the foundations for survival strategies that extended beyond the cold, influencing hunting, shelter construction, and social organization. The frozen world tested human limits, but through ingenuity, patience, and creativity, early humans proved that even in the harshest climates, life could endure, adapt, and flourish. In the frozen expanse of the Ice Age, shelter was the difference between life and death. The relentless cold, merciless winds, and sudden blizzards made survival impossible without a refuge to block the elements. Early humans, faced with this unforgiving environment, became architects of necessity, using ingenuity, observation, and trial and error to create safe havens that provided warmth, protection, and a sense of security. Shelter was more than a physical structure. It was a sanctuary from fear, a space where communities could rest, bond, and plan for the challenges that awaited beyond its walls. Caves were among the first and most reliable shelters available to Ice Age humans. Naturally insulated and protected from wind and snow, caves offered immediate refuge, shielding occupants from sub-zero temperatures and predators. The walls of these caves often became canvases for early artistic expression, with paintings depicting hunts, animals, and symbolic rituals. These artworks suggest that caves were not just practical shelters, but also cultural hubs, spaces where the practical needs of survival merged with the spiritual and social lives of early humans. Within the deep recesses of a cave, humans found not only warmth, but also a sense of permanence and safety in an otherwise unpredictable world. However, caves were not always available or conveniently located. This scarcity spurred the development of portable or semi-permanent shelters. Wooden frameworks covered with hides, reeds, and grasses created insulated huts capable of protecting small family groups. These structures, although simple in design, demonstrated profound understanding of environmental adaptation. Sloped roofs allowed snow to slide off, layered hides retained body heat, and the placement of entrances minimized exposure to wind. Such shelters required planning, teamwork, and skilled craftsmanship, reflecting the collaborative nature of survival during harsh winters. Every hut or temporary dwelling was a testament to human creativity and the ability to impose order on a chaotic, frozen landscape. Snow itself became a tool in shelter construction. In areas with abundant snowfall, early humans could build windbreaks, snow walls, or even igloo-like structures. By compacting snow into dense blocks or creating trenches, they could carve out spaces insulated from frigid winds and blizzards. These snow dwellings may have seemed fragile, yet they were remarkably effective, leveraging the insulating properties of ice and snow to trap warmth inside. The ability to transform the very environment into protection highlights a key characteristic of Ice Age survival. Humans were not passive recipients of nature's challenges. They actively manipulated their surroundings to ensure survival. Location was just as important as the structure itself. Early humans selected sites based on access to resources, proximity to game trails, and natural protection from the elements. South-facing slopes, rock overhangs, and forested areas provided additional warmth and concealment, while proximity to water ensured hydration and food sources. The strategic placement of shelters demonstrates an early understanding of environmental science, where survival depended as much on positioning as on construction. The interplay between location and structure allowed humans to minimize exposure while maximizing comfort and safety. Inside these shelters, the arrangement of space was deliberate. Communal areas clustered around fires allowed for warmth, cooking, and social interaction, while peripheral spaces were used for storage, sleeping, or crafting tools. Hides and furs were layered to create insulation, and careful attention was given to airflow to prevent smoke inhalation while maintaining warmth. This organization illustrates that shelter was not merely a static refuge, but a dynamic environment designed to meet multiple needs: survival, social cohesion, and cultural expression. The contrast between the frigid, barren world outside and the controlled, warm interior emphasizes the transformative power of human ingenuity. Shelter also played a crucial psychological role. The ability to retreat from the elements provided a sense of security that allowed early humans to conserve energy, think strategically, and build stronger social bonds. Infants, children, and the elderly, most vulnerable to cold, were protected within these safe spaces, ensuring that knowledge, skills, and culture could be passed to the next generation. The act of gathering inside, tending the fire, and sharing food transformed survival from a solitary struggle into a communal endeavor, highlighting the inseparable link between shelter and social life. Moreover, shelters were sites of learning and experimentation. Early humans refined construction techniques over generations, learning which material provided the best insulation, which shapes resisted wind, and how to combine natural and crafted elements for optimal protection. This accumulated knowledge was shared through demonstration, storytelling, and hands-on teaching, illustrating that survival was as much about cultural transmission as it was about physical endurance. Each successful shelter represented not only protection from the cold, but also a repository of communal wisdom and practical intelligence. Even the simplest shelters reflect a sophisticated understanding of human needs. A well-constructed hut or cave interior regulated temperature, allowed safe cooking and food storage, and provided a platform for tool-making and planning hunts. These structures transformed hostile landscapes into livable environments, giving early humans a confidence to venture out into frozen expanses with secure refuge to return to. The contrast between exposure and refuge underscores a central theme of Ice Age survival: The ability to manipulate the environment through knowledge and skill was essential for enduring extreme conditions. In essence, the shelters of the Ice Age were more than just protection from cold. They were incubators of human ingenuity, social cooperation, and cultural development. They bridged the gap between vulnerability and resilience, offering not only warmth but also a sense of control over an otherwise uncontrollable world. Through caves, huts, and snow dwellings, early humans learned to transform fear into strategy, chaos into order, and isolation into community. Shelter, in this frozen world, became a symbol of human resourcefulness, creativity, and the enduring will to survive. In the icy expanses of the Ice Age, survival depended on more than shelter and fire. It hinged on the ability to secure food in a world where resources were scarce and the cold was relentless. Hunting was not merely a means of sustenance. It was a matter of life and death, a high-stakes endeavor where failure could lead to starvation and exposure. Early humans faced an environment where prey was both essential and elusive, requiring skill, patience, and strategic intelligence to navigate the frozen wilderness. Every hunt was a careful balance between risk and reward, a dangerous negotiation with nature that demanded courage, cooperation, and ingenuity. The first challenge was tracking and locating prey in a snow-covered landscape. Herds of large herbivores, including mammoths, reindeer, and bison, moved in patterns dictated by the availability of food and water, leaving behind footprints in the snow that sharp-eyed humans could follow. Reading these subtle signs required acute observation and a deep understanding of animal behavior. Hunters had to anticipate movements, predict reactions, and interpret the environment in ways that were both practical and instinctive. The frozen ground became a canvas of clues, and those who could read it held the advantage between life and starvation. Weapons and tools were central to hunting success. Spears made from sharpened wood or tipped with stone and bone allowed humans to engage prey at a safer distance, while bows and arrows, although less common in the earliest periods, eventually expanded the range and efficiency of hunters. Traps, pits, and ambush strategies were employed to conserve energy and reduce risk, illustrating the intelligence and planning involved in hunting. Each weapon represented not only technical skill, but also an understanding of physics, material properties, and the behavior of both prey and environment. The human ability to transform raw materials into sophisticated hunting tools was a defining feature of survival in the frozen world. Teamwork was essential. Solo hunts were rarely successful against large, fast-moving, or dangerous animals. Early humans learned to coordinate movements, communicate silently, and execute complex strategies that required trust and collaboration. Groups would drive herds toward natural traps, cliffs, or snow drifts, or surround animals to isolate the weakest or slowest members. This level of coordination demonstrates not only physical skill, but also cognitive sophistication, the capacity to plan, strategize, and act collectively under pressure. The contrast between the frozen, indifferent wilderness and the organized, purposeful human group highlights the ingenuity that turned vulnerability into advantage. The risk inherent in hunting was immense. A wounded mammoth or bison could easily fatally injure a hunter, and the pursuit often required exposure to harsh weather, deep snow, and predators. Hunters had to weigh the dangers against the nutritional payoff, understanding that success could feed an entire group, while failure could imperil everyone. The stakes made each hunt a dramatic, high-tension endeavor, where courage, skill, and quick thinking determined not only the outcome of the hunt, but the survival of the community. In this environment, fear was a constant companion, tempered only by preparation, experience, and the solidarity of the group. Hunting also shaped social structures. Those skilled in tracking, strategy, and weapon use often gained elevated status within the band, as their abilities directly affected the survival of all. Knowledge was passed down meticulously, ensuring that techniques, strategies, and lessons learned from both success and failure were preserved across generations. The communal aspect of hunting reinforced bonds between members, cultivated respect, and created a shared sense of purpose that transcended mere survival. In this way, hunting was as much a social and cultural activity as it was a practical one. Nutrition was another critical factor. Large prey provided not only protein but also fat, which was essential for generating body heat in freezing conditions. Every part of the animal was used: meat for food, hides for clothing and shelter, bones for tools, and sinew for cordage. This holistic approach demonstrates the early humans' intimate understanding of their environment and their capacity to extract maximum utility from limited resources. The contrast between the barren, frozen landscape and the abundance provided by a successful hunt emphasizes the life-saving significance of these endeavors. Hunting was also deeply intertwined with early human psychology and spirituality. Successful hunts were often followed by rituals or symbolic gestures, acknowledging the animal's life and expressing gratitude to nature. Cave paintings, carvings, and ceremonial feasts suggest that hunting was embedded within a larger cultural and spiritual framework, providing meaning beyond mere sustenance. These practices reinforce social cohesion, transmitted knowledge, and helped humans psychologically process the dangers and uncertainties inherent in survival. The act of hunting, therefore, was simultaneously practical, communal, and symbolic, a microcosm of human adaptation to extreme conditions. Seasons shaped hunting strategies. Winter hunts were particularly challenging as animals migrated, food sources dwindled, and energy expenditure increased. Hunters had to carefully plan the timing, location, and methods pursuit to maximize efficiency while minimizing exposure. Knowledge of seasonal patterns, herd behavior, and environmental cues was critical, illustrating that survival depended not merely on strength, but on intelligence, observation, and foresight. In this frozen world, timing could determine the difference between a feast and famine, between life and death. Finally, hunting forged a profound relationship between humans and the natural world. Early humans were not merely predators. They were participants in a complex ecological system, observing, interpreting, and interacting with their environment in ways that ensured both survival and sustainability. This balance of respect, ingenuity, and necessity defined Ice Age hunting practices, creating a model of adaptive intelligence that continues to inspire anthropologists and historians today. The contrast between the harshness of the frozen wilderness and the ingenuity of human hunters underscores the central theme of the Ice Age. Survival required more than endurance. It required mastery of skill, strategy, and collaboration. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, hunting was a crucible of human resilience, ingenuity, and courage. Each successful hunt transformed fear into sustenance, danger into security, and isolation into communal purpose. The strategies, tools, and social bonds forged in pursuit of food became defining characteristics of human evolution, illustrating how necessity drove innovation and cooperation. Hunting in the frozen world was not merely about survival. It was a testament to the adaptability, intelligence, and enduring spirit of early humans, shaping the course of human history in ways that continue to echo through time. In the harsh grip of the Ice Age, a successful hunt was more than practical victory. It was a cause for communal celebration, a sacred moment that reinforced the bonds of survival, spirituality, and social cohesion. Winter, in particular, magnified the significance of each meal. In a season when food was scarce and the cold merciless, the ability to secure a herd of reindeer or a mammoth meant not only warmth and nourishment, but also the continuation of life itself. Feasts that followed such hunts were imbued with deeper meaning, transforming the act of eating into a ritual of gratitude, reflection, and shared triumph. These communal feasts served multiple purposes. Practically, they allowed the efficient distribution of food among the group, ensuring that every member, from infants to the elderly, received sustenance during the harshest months. Socially, they reinforced hierarchies, roles, and responsibilities within the band. Skilled hunters, those who contributed most of the kill, were often honored with the first portions, acknowledging their critical contribution to the survival of the group. Yet beyond pragmatism, there was a spiritual dimension. The animals hunted were respected and, in many cases, honored through gestures, songs, or symbolic acts that recognized the life taken to sustain human life. The contrast between scarcity and abundance, life and death, underscored the profound importance of these rituals. Anthropologists suggest that these feasts were among the earliest forms of human ritualistic behavior. They were not only opportunities to consume food, but also to teach, to bond, and to pass down knowledge. During feasts, younger members observed the butchering of animals, the preparation of hides, and the sharing of food, learning survival skills critical to their future roles in the group. Elders, meanwhile, shared stories of previous hunts, dangers overcome, and lessons learned from the environment. In this way, feasting became both an educational and spiritual practice, blending practicality with cultural continuity. The setting of these feasts was carefully chosen, often held near fires inside caves or temporary shelters. They provided warmth and protection from predators, creating a safe space for communal gathering. The glow of flames illuminated the faces of those present, casting flickering shadows on the walls and reinforcing a sense of unity and shared purpose. The act of eating together around the fire reinforced social bonds, turning survival into a collective experience. Contrast is evident. Outside, the freezing wind and predatory threats dominated, while inside, warmth, nourishment, and companionship created a sanctuary of life amidst the surrounding deathly cold. Feasts also marked the rhythm of seasonal life. Winter was a time of scarcity, reflection, and endurance, and a successful hunt represented a turning point in these cycles. By celebrating these moments, early humans acknowledged not only the physical sustenance provided by the hunt, but also the delicate balance of life and the ongoing struggle against environmental extremes. Ceremonial gestures, perhaps in the form of songs, chants, or symbolic offerings, likely accompanied these feasts, connecting the material act of eating with deeper spiritual and cultural meaning. Food thus became a medium for expressing reverence, gratitude, and continuity. The psychological impact of these feasts was profound. In a time when isolation, fear, and hardship were constants, gathering around a shared meal offered comfort and reassurance. Humans experienced a tangible sense of security, belonging, and hope, knowing that the group's collective effort had transformed danger into abundance. The warmth of fire, the smell of roasted meat, and the shared laughter or storytelling around the table all contributed to a sense of normalcy and stability amidst a world defined by uncertainty. In this sense, feasts were not only nutritional necessities, they were acts of emotional and psychological sustenance, crucial for maintaining morale and cohesion during harsh winters. Preparation for these feasts required knowledge and foresight. Animals had to be skinned, cut, and cooked efficiently, often using fire for roasting or smoking to preserve meat. Fat, highly valued for its caloric content, was rendered for cooking or additional warmth, and edible plants or preserved foods supplemented the diet. These activities demanded coordination, skill, and experience, turning the communal act of feasting into an elaborate dance of survival. Every gesture, from carving meat to arranging portions, reflected both practicality and respect for the resources that ensured life during winter. Furthermore, these rituals around food helped establish social identity and group cohesion. Participation in feasts reinforced membership in the band, delineated roles, and transmitted cultural norms. The act of sharing, celebrating, and performing symbolic gestures cultivated trust, reciprocity, and a sense of mutual reliance. In a landscape where survival depended on cooperation, these communal meals strengthened the social fabric, binding individuals together through a shared recognition of vulnerability, effort, and success. The reverence of the hunt and the subsequent feast also points to an early understanding of the interconnectedness of life. Animals were not merely resources. They were partners in a delicate ecological balance. Respecting the life taken, acknowledging the dangers overcome, and sharing the bounty with the entire group reflect an emerging consciousness of humans' place within the natural world. These feasts were early manifestations of a worldview in which survival, gratitude, and ritual were inextricably linked. Ultimately, winter feasts exemplify the fusion of survival, culture, and spirituality. They transform necessity into ceremony, fear into celebration, and scarcity into a shared triumph. By honoring the animals hunted, distributing food wisely, and gathering around fire and companionship, early humans created a model for social and cultural life that balanced the practical demands of survival with the emotional and spiritual needs of the community. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, these sacred feasts were more than meals. They were affirmations of life, resilience, and the enduring human spirit. While hunting provided large quantities of meat and fat essential for survival during the harsh winters of the Ice Age, early humans could not rely solely on the unpredictable success of the hunt. Foraging for additional food sources, plants, nuts, berries, roots, and even insects, was equally critical. In the frozen landscape, this required a deep understanding of seasonal cycles, plant behavior, and the subtle signs of life persisting beneath snow and ice. Survival depended on knowing where to look, what could be eaten safely, and how to preserve these resources for lean periods. making foraging both an art and a science in the context of Ice Age life. Winter foraging presented unique challenges. Many plants became dormant, leaving only roots or hardy evergreen species as potential food sources. Early humans developed techniques to dig beneath frozen soil, extract edible roots, and process them for consumption. Nuts, often collected and stored during warmer months, became invaluable sources of calories, while berries preserved through drying or freezing added essential vitamins. Knowledge of toxic versus edible plants was passed down carefully, as a single mistake could mean poisoning in a landscape where medical remedies were non-existent. This delicate balance between nourishment and danger underscores intelligence and caution required to supplement winter diets. Humans also turned to alternative sources of nutrition when plant life was scarce. Insects, grubs, and even the marrow from bones provided vital protein and fat. These unconventional resources highlight early humans' adaptability and willingness to exploit every available opportunity for sustenance. Extracting marrow from bones not only yielded essential nutrients, but also reflected ingenuity, as fire and tools were used to crack shells and access hidden reserves of energy. The resourcefulness demonstrated in foraging illustrates a critical survival principle. When traditional prey was unavailable, humans innovated, ensuring continuity of life in extreme conditions. Storage and preservation techniques were vital to extending the utility of foraged foods. Roots could be stored in insulated caches, berries dried or frozen, and nuts kept safe in pits or natural containers. Ice and snow themselves became natural refrigerators, slowing decay and allowing small amount of food to last for weeks. Early humans learned to combine environmental knowledge with creativity, transforming the harsh winter into a tool for prolonging sustenance rather than a purely destructive force. The contrast between scarcity outside and stored abundance inside shelters underscores the importance of foresight and planning in early survival strategies. Foraging also demanded careful observation of animal behavior. Humans learned that following the movement of herbivores could lead them to edible plants or berries, creating a link between hunting and gathering strategies. Observing where animals fed allowed humans to exploit similar resources, blending the boundaries between predator and observer. This interconnection between foraging and hunting reveals a sophisticated understanding early humans had of their ecosystem, recognizing patterns and using them to their advantage in an unforgiving environment. Moreover, foraging contributed to social structures. Sharing gathered foods reinforced communal bonds, ensuring that every member of the group received nutrition. Knowledge of edible plants, storage techniques, and safe processing methods was transmitted through teaching, storytelling, and demonstration. Children learned to identify plants, elders imparted strategies for survival, and the group collectively maintained a body of practical knowledge essential for enduring the winter months. The act of foraging, therefore, was both a practical necessity and a cultural practice, embedding survival skills within the social fabric of the community. The psychological benefits of foraging should not be overlooked. Engaging with the environment, even in the freezing winter, offered humans a sense of agency and control. By actively seeking and securing resources, they could mitigate the unpredictability of the season, transforming passive vulnerability into proactive strategy. The contrast between helpless exposure to nature and deliberate action through foraging highlights the early human capacity for foresight, problem-solving, and adaptation under pressure. Finally, winter foraging illustrates the dynamic relationship between humans and their environment. It required observation, experimentation, and a respect for natural cycles. Early humans became keen ecologists, understanding which plants could survive under ice, how to store them effectively, and how to balance immediate needs with long-term survival. This knowledge, accumulated over generations, formed the foundation for human resilience and adaptability, allowing communities to endure and even thrive despite the challenges of the Ice Age. In conclusion, foraging during the winter months was far more than a supplementary activity. It was a critical component of survival. It combined knowledge, skill, ingenuity, and foresight, reinforcing both physical sustenance and social cohesion. In the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age, those who mastered foraging alongside hunting transformed scarcity into opportunity, danger into strategy, and isolation into community. The survival of early humans depended on this delicate balance, a testament to human intelligence, adaptability, and the enduring spirit that allowed life to persist in the most unforgiving of environments. In the frozen wilderness of the Ice Age, early humans navigated a world teeming with both peril and opportunity. Animals dominated the landscape, presenting threats that could end life in an instant, while also offering resources essential for survival. Predators such as wolves, cave lions, and bears stalked the snow-covered plains, forcing humans to remain vigilant, strategic, and cautious. At the same time, herbivores like mammoths, reindeer, and bison provided the meat, fat, hides, and bones that underpinned human survival. This duality, friend and foe, life-giver and danger, shaped the evolution of human behavior, social organization, and ingenuity in profound ways. The first and most immediate interaction with animals was one of observation. Humans studied movement patterns, feeding behaviors, and seasonal migrations, learning to anticipate both opportunity and risk. This knowledge was vital for hunting and for avoiding predators. Tracking techniques evolved, enabling early humans to read footprints in snow, identify broken branches as signs of passage, and even interpret subtle behavioral cues in the herd. By understanding animal behavior, humans could minimize danger, maximize success in hunting, and position themselves advantageously in the frozen landscape. This close observation fostered a unique relationship between humans and the creatures that shared their environment, blending necessity with intuition. Predators were a constant threat. Wolves, cave lions, and other carnivores were drawn to both prey and humans, especially during harsh winters when food was scarce. Encounters with these animals required quick thinking, defensive strategies, and often coordinated group action. Fires, sharp weapons, and temporary shelters became vital tools in mitigating risk. Groups would remain vigilant during night watches, using sound, movement, and the glow of fire to deter predators. The contrast between human vulnerability and predator strength emphasized the dangers of Ice Age life, while highlighting the intelligence and adaptability that allowed humans to coexist and survive alongside these formidable animals. At the same time, certain animals became indispensable allies. Dogs, domesticated later in the Ice Age, are believed to have been among the first companions, assisting in hunting, guarding camps, and providing warmth. Herding smaller domesticated animals offered additional food sources and companionship. Even observing wild animals indirectly aided survival. Scavenging patterns revealed where predators had hunted, while the movement of herbivores indicated the location of edible plants and water sources. The subtle interplay between humans and animals fostered a sophisticated understanding of ecology and the interconnectedness of life in extreme environments. The hunting of large herbivores demanded careful planning and respect for the power of these creatures. Mammoths, for instance, could weigh several tons and were capable of killing a hunter with a single charge. To hunt such formidable animals, early humans coordinated ambushes, employed traps, and selected vulnerable targets, such as the sick, injured, or young. Success required patience, strategy, and collective effort, highlighting the role of intelligence and collaboration in overcoming natural challenges. The rewards were immense. Meat provided sustenance, hides offered clothing and shelter, and bones became tools, ensuring that each hunt supported multiple facets of survival. The use of animal resources extended beyond practical needs into cultural and spiritual life. Cave paintings frequently depicted animals, suggesting that humans revered, feared, and sought to understand their power. Rituals may have accompanied hunts, expressing gratitude or appealing for future success. By integrating animals into their spiritual and social practices, early humans acknowledged their dependence on and respect for the natural world. The duality of animals as both life-givers and threats created a complex psychological and cultural landscape, shaping human behavior, art, and belief systems. Even smaller animals played critical roles. Birds, rabbits, and rodents provided supplemental protein, while their pelts were used for clothing or insulation. Insects, though unconventional, offered additional sustenance. These small creatures demonstrate the breadth of early human ingenuity, turning every encounter with nature into a potential survival advantage. Humans learned to exploit these resources without depleting them entirely, showing early signs of ecological awareness and strategic resource management. Predation and competition also reinforced social cohesion. Groups had to cooperate to hunt large animals safely, defend campsites, and share resources equitably. Social bonds were strengthened through collective action, the transmission of knowledge, and the division of roles based on skill, strength, and experience. Children observed adults handling animals, learning tracking, butchering, and defensive strategies, ensuring that survival knowledge was preserved across generations. This cooperative dynamic illustrates that relationships with animals were inseparable from social organization and cultural continuity. The constant presence of animals shaped psychological resilience as well. Fear of predators, the stress of scarcity, and the uncertainty of hunting cultivated vigilance, patience, and problem-solving skills. Early humans learned to balance risk with reward, developing strategies to protect themselves while obtaining sustenance. The interplay between danger and opportunity instilled a keen awareness of the environment and fostered adaptive thinking, ensuring that humans remain both cautious and innovative. The contrast between vulnerability and resourcefulness underscores the remarkable flexibility and intelligence that define Ice Age survival. Ultimately, the relationship between early humans and animals was a delicate equilibrium of fear, respect, and utility. Predators demanded caution and ingenuity. Prey offered sustenance and material resources, and the observation of all life informed human strategy, culture, and social structure. This balance between threat and opportunity forged critical skills, reinforced social cohesion, and shaped the trajectory of human evolution. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, animals were neither merely adversaries nor passive resources. They were essential partners in the complex web of survival, teaching humans how to navigate danger, exploit opportunity, and thrive in the harshest of environments. The story of animal allies and enemies illustrates the intricate dance of survival. Humans were predators, prey, observers, and participants within an interconnected ecosystem. By respecting the power of animals, learning from their behaviors, and leveraging their resources strategically, early humans transformed fear into opportunity, danger into nourishment, and the frozen wilderness into a habitat they can endure, adapt to, and ultimately thrive within. Survival during the Ice Age was not solely a matter of enduring cold nights, securing food, or crafting tools. It required movement, strategy, and adaptability. Harsh winters forced early humans to think beyond the immediate environment, planning journeys that followed the rhythms of nature, the migration of herds, and the availability of shelter. These seasonal migrations were complex endeavors, combining environmental knowledge, social coordination, and physical endurance. Each journey was a calculated risk. Stepping into unknown terrain could lead to opportunity or catastrophe, but staying in one place without resources often meant starvation. Migration, therefore, was both a necessity and a strategic choice, a testament to human foresight and adaptability in extreme conditions. The patterns of migration were closely tied to the movement of game and the seasonal availability of plant foods. Herds of large herbivores, such as mammoths, reindeer, and bison, followed predictable routes in search of grazing lands, and early humans learned to track these migrations with meticulous precision. Winter demanded that humans either follow these herds to maintain access to meat or stockpile resources in sheltered locations to survive periods of scarcity. Observing animal behavior, reading environmental cues, and recalling memory maps of terrain were all essential skills. Knowledge of frozen rivers, snowdrifts, and passable valleys dictated the timing and direction of movement, illustrating the intimate connection between humans and the landscape. Migration was not a solitary endeavor. It required coordination and cooperation within the group. Families and clans moved together, carrying tools, hides, and children, while older members imparted guidance and knowledge about the journey. Routes were planned to ensure access to water, firewood, and temporary shelters, while avoiding dangerous terrain or predator territories. Every step reflected a balance between risk and reward, where miscalculations could lead to frostbite, hunger, or injury. The contrast between the frozen, unyielding landscape and the carefully orchestrated human movements underscores the intelligence, social cohesion, and resilience required to survive in Ice Age winters. In addition to following game, humans also time migrations according to plant availability. Foraging for roots, nuts, and berries dictated movement toward areas where winter crops or preserved foods could be collected. These journeys were not only physical but also strategic, blending hunting, gathering, and storage practices into a single, coordinated survival strategy. Humans learned to anticipate environmental changes, predict snow depth, and locate caches of stored food, demonstrating advanced cognitive abilities and long-term planning. The ability to integrate multiple survival needs into a cohesive migratory strategy represents one of the earliest examples of complex adaptive behavior in human history. Migration also shaped the development of temporary shelters. As humans moved across the landscape, they constructed portable or semi-permanent structures that could be quickly assembled, disassembled, and relocated. Huts made from wood, hides, and grasses offered insulation and protection, while natural formations like rock overhangs and caves provided temporary refuge. Fire played a critical role during journeys, allowing for warmth, cooking, and signaling. Every aspect of movement, from tools to clothing to shelter, was interconnected, reflecting a holistic approach to survival that considered not only immediate needs, but also the uncertainties of the journey. Traveling in harsh winter, conditions demanded physical resilience and endurance. Deep snow, icy rivers, and bitter winds tested the limits of human strength and stamina. Footwear and layered clothing, combined with knowledge of terrain and travel strategies, were essential for reducing energy expenditure and preventing injury. Humans learned to move efficiently, using paths that minimize exposure, conserving energy during long treks, and maintaining group cohesion to ensure the safety of the most vulnerable members. The contrast between the harshness of the environment and the carefully executed strategies of movement illustrates how early humans converted knowledge and preparation into life-saving advantages. Seasonal strategies also included storing and preserving resources along migratory routes. Food caches, hidden supplies of firewood, and strategically placed tools allowed humans to survive periods when movement was impossible due to storms or extreme cold. This practice demonstrated not only foresight, but also an understanding of risk management and resource allocation. By anticipating potential obstacles and preparing for contingencies, early humans minimized vulnerability and maximized the efficiency of their journeys. Such strategies reveal the sophistication of human survival tactics and the early development of logistical planning. Migration was more than survival. It was a catalyst for cultural exchange and innovation. As groups traveled, they encountered other bands, shared knowledge, exchanged tools, and learned new strategies for coping with the environment. Movement facilitated communication, the dissemination of techniques, and the spread of cultural practices, strengthening social networks across vast landscapes. Winter journeys were not merely utilitarian. They were engines of cultural evolution, enabling humans to adapt not only physically but also socially and cognitively. The psychological dimension of migration was equally significant. Facing the uncertainty of unknown terrain, the dangers of predators, and the challenges of harsh weather, humans cultivated resilience, patience, and problem-solving skills. The journey itself became a testament to human endurance, ingenuity, and courage, transforming fear and isolation into confidence, skill, and collective achievement. Every successful migration reinforced social bonds, deepened environmental knowledge, and strengthened the group's capacity to survive. Ultimately, migration and seasonal strategies illustrate the dynamic interplay between humans and their environment. Survival was not passive. It was an ongoing negotiation between knowledge, preparation, adaptability, and cooperation. Early humans learned to read the landscape, anticipate change, and act collectively to navigate the frozen wilderness. These journeys reflect not only physical endurance, but also cognitive sophistication, social cohesion, and cultural development. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, movement was not merely a response to necessity. It was a defining feature of human resilience, intelligence, and the capacity to transform a harsh, unforgiving landscape into a habitat where life could endure and flourish. Migration, in its essence, was a story of strategy, foresight, and adaptation. It exemplifies how early humans integrated observation, planning, and collaboration into their daily lives, turning challenges into opportunities and danger into survival. The frozen expanse of the Ice Age was a proving ground for ingenuity, endurance, and communal effort, a landscape that shaped not only the physical survival of humans, but also their cognitive, social, and cultural evolution. In the endless darkness of Ice Age winters, survival was not only about hunting, gathering, and migration. It was also about rest. Sleep, often overlooked in the modern understanding of survival, was a crucial and carefully managed component of human endurance. The long nights, bitter cold, and constant threat of predators made finding safe and restorative sleep a delicate balance. Early humans developed strategies to conserve energy, maintain warmth, and ensure security during rest, transforming the vulnerability of sleep into a controlled, life-sustaining practice. One of the primary considerations for winter rest was warmth. Early humans layered furs, hides, and grasses to create insulated sleeping areas, often placing them near the fire but at a safe distance to avoid sparks and smoke. Huts, caves, and snow shelters were carefully chosen or constructed to minimize exposure to wind and cold. The arrangement of sleeping spaces was deliberate, with communal clustering allowing body heat to be shared, protecting the youngest, oldest, and most vulnerable members. This strategy not only conserved energy but also strengthened social bonds, turning a practical need into a social and psychological advantage. The timing of sleep was equally strategic. Early humans were keenly aware of environmental cues, such as temperature fluctuations, daylight, and predator activity. Rest periods were often synchronized with the coldest hours or the darkest part of the night, while activities like hunting or gathering were conducted during safer, warmer, or lighter periods. This alignment with natural rhythms maximized efficiency and safety, ensuring that energy was spent wisely and sleep occurred under the most favorable conditions. In this way, rest was not passive. It was an active, strategic response to the challenges of the environment. Fire played a central role in creating a safe sleeping environment. Beyond warmth, the glow of embers provided light, deterring predators and signaling the presence of humans to one another. Fires were often maintained throughout the night in shifts, allowing some members to rest while others kept watch. This practice required coordination, trust, and communication, highlighting the social dimension of survival. The contrast between the threatening darkness outside and the protective glow inside underscores how humans transform environmental hazards into tools for security and comfort. Psychological safety was as important as physical warmth. Humans needed to feel protected from predators, harsh weather, and other potential threats. Communal sleeping arrangements, watch systems, and enclosed shelters provided a sense of security, reducing stress and allowing for restorative sleep. The predictability of routines, the reassurance of group presence, and the protective barriers of fire and shelter allowed humans to conserve energy and maintain alertness during waking hours. Sleep thus became a carefully orchestrated act of both physical and mental preservation. Early humans also developed techniques to reduce heat loss and maximize comfort during sleep, curling up, tucking extremities, and using natural insulation from leaves, moss, or for minimized exposure and retain body heat. Elevated sleeping platforms or insulated bedding within shelters protected from dampness and cold radiating from the ground. These innovations, seemingly simple, required observation, experimentation, and knowledge passed through generations, demonstrating the intersection of practical survival skills and learned behavior. Every detail, from positioning to materials, had a direct impact on health and survival. Energy conservation was another critical aspect of winter rest. Food scarcity and extreme cold demanded that humans optimize their daily activities and sleep patterns to reduce unnecessary expenditure of calories. Rest periods were extended when weather conditions made movement dangerous or when food supplies were low. Strategic rest ensured that energy was available for essential tasks like hunting, tool-making, and maintaining fire. Sleep, in this sense, was both restorative and tactical, reinforcing the human capacity to manage resources intelligently in response to environmental challenges. Sleep strategies were also integrated with social dynamics. The sharing of warmth through group sleeping, the assignment of watch duties, and the protection of the young and elderly fostered cooperation, trust, and interdependence. Sleep became a communal endeavor, strengthening bonds and ensuring that the group as a whole remained resilient in the face of harsh conditions. The act of resting together reinforced the social fabric, turning a basic physiological need into a ritual of survival, care, and solidarity. Seasonal adaptations further influenced sleep patterns. During the longest nights of winter, humans may have rested in shifts, adjusting routines to maximize safety and efficiency. Conversely, shorter winter days with limited light may have encouraged longer periods of consolidated rest to conserve energy. By aligning sleep with environmental rhythms, humans integrated biological needs with survival strategies, demonstrating an intuitive understanding of ecology, circadian cycles, and resource management. Ultimately, The strategies surrounding sleep in the Ice Age illustrate the sophisticated interplay of environment, biology, and social organization. Rest was never passive. It was a carefully managed communal and strategic activity that ensured both survival and social cohesion. By layering furs, maintaining fires, sharing warmth, and coordinating watches, early humans transformed vulnerability into resilience. Sleep, in the frozen world of the Ice Age, was not merely a necessity. It was a skill, a strategy, and a vital component of enduring one of the most challenging climates in human history. Through these practices, humans learned to balance exposure and protection, activity and rest, independence and communal care. The long winter nights tested every aspect of endurance, but the strategies of sleep allowed early humans to conserve energy, maintain health, and emerge ready to face the dangers and demands of the frozen landscape. In the delicate dance between life and death, cold and warmth, fear and safety, sleep was both a refuge and a weapon, a quiet, essential form of survival that shaped human resilience and ingenuity for generations to come. In the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age, fire was nothing short of a lifeline. It was a source of warmth in a world defined by relentless cold, a tool for cooking and preserving food, and a powerful deterrent against predators. Mastery of fire represented a turning point in human evolution, transforming vulnerability into control and danger into opportunity. For early humans, understanding fire, how to start, sustain it, and use it strategically was as critical as knowing how to hunt or build shelter. Without fire, survival in the icy winters would have been precarious at best, and the mastery of this elemental force became a cornerstone of life, social cohesion, and cultural development. Fire provided a physical sanctuary against the bitter cold. Ice Age winters brought sub-zero temperatures, biting winds, and snowstorms that could sap strength and lead to hypothermia. Humans quickly learned to position fires strategically, inside caves near shelters or in communal spaces, creating zones of warmth where they could rest, cook, and plan. Fire's radiant heat extended the usable area of a shelter, allowing multiple activities to occur simultaneously. Tool-making, food preparation, and social interaction all became possible in the glow of flames. The contrast between the freezing darkness outside and the life-sustaining warmth of fire exemplifies how humans transformed a hostile environment into a livable space through knowledge and skill. Beyond warmth, fire revolutionized the way early humans consumed food. Cooking meat and plants not only made them safer to eat by killing bacteria and parasites, but also increased their caloric value and digestibility, a critical advantage in energy-depleting winters. Roasting over open flames, smoking for preservation, and boiling with heated stones allowed humans to maximize the nutritional return from limited resources. Fire enabled a long-term storage of surplus food, creating a buffer against scarcity and providing stability during periods when hunting and foraging were unproductive. In essence, fire became a tool for both sustenance and survival strategy, extending the range of what humans could safely consume and store. Fire also provided a critical layer of protection from predators. Wolves, cave lions, bears, and other carnivores were a constant threat, particularly at night or during storms. The glow, heat, and smell of fire acted as a natural deterrent, signaling human presence and warding off intruders. Maintaining a fire required vigilance and cooperation. Some members kept watch or added fuel, while others slept or prepared food. This shared responsibility reinforced social cohesion and trust, turning a simple flame into a focal point for both survival and community. The dual role of fire, protection, and warmth underscored its multifaceted importance in daily life. Mastery of fire also shaped human innovation. Tools for starting and maintaining fires, flints, tinder, and later, specialized implements required observation, experimentation, and dexterity. Humans learned which materials ignited most easily, how to sustain coals, and how to transport fire across distances. This knowledge became a form of cultural capital, passed down through generations. The ability to control fire distinguished humans from other species, enabling them to expand into colder regions and survive conditions that would have otherwise been fatal. Fire was both a literal and symbolic representation of human ingenuity and adaptation. Socially, fire became the heart of human gatherings. The warmth of flames created spaces for storytelling, teaching, and ritual, transforming mere survival into culture. Around the fire, knowledge was transmitted. Hunting techniques were demonstrated, tool-making skills were shared, and myths or symbolic narratives were recounted. Fire became a medium for socialization, learning, and cultural continuity, intertwining practical needs with emotional and psychological enrichment. It was in these moments, illuminated by flickering light, that humans not only survived the cold but also developed the foundations of community and culture. Fire also enabled new forms of environmental interaction. By controlling flames, humans could clear areas, drive game, or even modify landscapes in subtle ways. Controlled burning may have been used to encourage new plant growth or manipulate animal behavior, showing an early understanding of cause and effect within ecosystems. This strategic use of fire expanded the range of human influence, turning the natural environment into a landscape that could be shaped, controlled, and optimized for survival. The relationship between humans and fire exemplifies the broader theme of adaptation, transforming external challenges into manageable, even advantageous conditions. Energy conservation was intimately tied to fire. In the harsh winter months, every calorie counted, and fire allowed humans to reduce energy expenditure by staying warm without constant physical activity. It provided comfort, enabling rest and recovery, and allowed for more efficient cooking that made calories more accessible. The presence of fire also extended waking hours, giving humans more time to plan, create, and maintain social bonds. In a world dominated by scarcity, fire was a multiplier of human potential, enhancing both survival and quality of life. Psychologically, fire offered reassurance against the overwhelming threats of the Ice Age. Darkness, cold, and predatory dangers created constant stress and fear. Fire acted as a beacon of safety, a symbol of control over an otherwise uncontrollable world. Watching the flames dance, listening to the crackle of burning wood, and gathering around the warmth provided not only practical security, but also emotional solace. This sense of mastery over one of nature's most powerful elements bolstered confidence, morale, and communal resilience, reinforcing both individual and collective strength. Ultimately, fire mastery was a defining hallmark of Ice Age human survival. It integrated warmth, nutrition, protection, social cohesion, and psychological well-being into a single, powerful tool. Humans who controlled fire could extend their range, enhance their health, strengthen social bonds, and develop cultural practices that endure for generations. The ability to harness fire transformed humans from passive dwellers of a hostile environment into active shapers of their world, demonstrating the combination of intelligence, creativity, and foresight that defines human adaptation. In the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age, fire was more than heat, it was life. It illuminated the darkness, warded off predators, cooked and preserved food, fostered community, and symbolized human mastery over the environment. The mastery of fire allowed early humans not only to survive but to thrive, turning fear into warmth, scarcity into abundance, and isolation into communal strength. Through fire, humans transcended the limitations imposed by nature, asserting their ingenuity, resilience, and enduring spirit in one of the most challenging climates in history. Survival in the harsh winters of the Ice Age demanded more than instinct. It required ingenuity, dexterity, and innovation. Early humans developed a variety of tools and technologies that allowed them to hunt effectively, process food, construct shelters, and protect themselves from the relentless cold. Equally vital was clothing. Carefully crafted garments from animal hides, furs, and sinew enable humans to retain body heat, move efficiently in snow, and endure freezing temperatures. Together, tools and clothing exemplified human adaptability, turning limited resources into instruments of survival and laying the groundwork for technological evolution. Stone tools were central to every aspect of Ice Age life. Flake stones became sharp blades for cutting meat, scraping hides, and shaping wood, while heavier implements, such as hand axes, enabled the processing of large animals. Bone and antler were fashioned into needles, awls, and spear tips, showcasing ingenuity in exploiting all available materials. These tools were not simply functional. They were evidence of planning, skill, and the ability to manipulate the environment. Their creation required foresight, fine motor skills, and a deep understanding of material properties, reflecting the cognitive sophistication of early humans. Clothing was equally sophisticated. Layering hides and furs allowed humans to trap warmth, while shaping garments to fit the body enabled mobility in deep snow and harsh winds. Sewing with sinew and bone needles ensured durability and flexibility, while decorative elements may have reflected social identity or status within the group. Clothing was a direct response to environmental challenges, and its design demonstrates an intimate understanding of insulation, wind resistance, and human physiology. The contrast between bare survival and protection afforded by tailored garments illustrates the transformative power of technology in extreme conditions. The integration of tools and clothing extended into every survival activity. Hunters relied on spears, arrows, and traps crafted from a combination of stone, bone, and wood. Clothing allowed them to remain active in sub-zero temperatures without expending excessive energy. Tools aided in construction of shelters, from wooden frames to snow or rock enclosures, while garments ensured warmth and mobility during long treks or hunting expeditions. This synergy between technology and apparel reflects a holistic approach to survival, where every innovation reinforced multiple aspects of daily life. Storage and food processing also benefited from technological advancements. Tools enabled humans to butcher animals efficiently, extract marrow, and preserve meat through smoking or drying. Containers fashioned from bark, woven grasses, or animal hides allowed for transportation and storage of forage plants, nuts, and fat. These innovations ensured that resources could be utilized fully and preserved for periods of scarcity, demonstrating foresight, planning, and an early understanding of logistics and resource management. The combination of tools and clothing transformed survival from a reactive struggle into a proactive, organized system. Innovation extended to mobility and safety. Snowshoes, sleds, and other devices may have been employed to traverse deep snow and icy rivers, while tools allowed for construction of defensive structures against predators. Knowledge of materials and their properties, strength, flexibility, insulation, was critical for creating objects that could withstand extreme conditions. Every technological advancement reflected experimentation, observation, and a willingness to adapt in response to environmental challenges. The Ice Age became not merely a backdrop for survival, but a proving ground for human creativity and problem-solving. The use of tools and clothing also had social and cultural implications. Mastery of certain technologies elevated individuals within the group, while the sharing of skills strengthened social bonds and ensured the transmission of essential knowledge. Teaching younger generations how to craft tools or construct garments became a form of education and cultural continuity, reinforcing cohesion and resilience. Artifacts, such as decorated tools or specially crafted clothing, suggest that aesthetics and identity were intertwined with functionality, hinting at an emerging sense of culture even amidst the struggle for survival. Additionally, the ability to modify and manipulate the environment through technology illustrates early humans' understanding of cause and effect. Tools could shape wood, carve ice, or dig for edible roots, while clothing extended the ability to explore new regions previously inaccessible due to extreme cold. This adaptability allowed humans to expand their range, exploit diverse ecosystems, and respond creatively to challenges. The mastery of materials and their transformation into functional objects demonstrates a remarkable combination of intelligence, observation, and trial and error learning. The psychological impact of these technologies should not be underestimated. Tools and clothing provided confidence, reduced fear, and increased agency in a world dominated by harsh weather, predators, and scarcity. Humans could approach dangerous tasks with a sense of preparedness, knowing that their skills, instruments, and garments provided protection and efficiency. This empowerment transformed human perception of the environment, shifting from passive endurance to active engagement. The contrast between vulnerability without technology and the security it afforded highlights the transformative effect of innovation on both survival and mentality. Ultimately, tools, clothing, and technological adaptations were far more than practical responses to environmental pressures. They were defining features of Ice Age humanity. They enable hunting, foraging, shelter building, and social cohesion, while fostering creativity, intelligence, and cultural identity. Each spear tip, fur garment, or bone needle was a testament to human problem-solving, adaptability, and ingenuity, reflecting a species that could thrive in the most extreme conditions through innovation and cooperation. In the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age, technology was a lifeline, a shield, and a tool for empowerment. It allowed humans not only to survive, but to shape their environment, extend their reach, and cultivate social and cultural complexity. Tools and clothing transformed the challenges of winter into manageable tasks, turning scarcity into opportunity, exposure into protection, and danger into mastery. Through ingenuity and skill, early humans asserted their resilience, creativity, and enduring spirit, leaving a legacy of technological and cultural evolution that continues to inspire our understanding of adaptation and survival. In the harsh and unforgiving winters of the Ice Age, survival depended not only on fire, tools, and hunting skills, but also on the strength of social bonds and family structures. Early humans lived in small bands where cooperation, trust, and shared responsibilities were vital. Each member played a role, from the skilled hunters and gatherers to the elders and children who maintained knowledge, nurtured the young, and supported the daily functioning of the group. The dynamics of family and community were the invisible infrastructure of survival, turning a struggle against nature into a collective endeavor. The family unit served multiple purposes. It provided physical support, emotional reassurance, and the transmission of knowledge critical to survival. Elders, with their experience, guided decision-making for hunting, migration, and shelter building. They taught children essential skills, from crafting tools and clothing to reading animal tracks and foraging for hidden winter foods. This intergenerational knowledge transfer ensured continuity of survival strategies, strengthened social cohesion, and preserved the cultural identity of the group. Children, in turn, contribute to groups' well-being by assisting with small tasks, observing adults, and learning through participation, creating a cycle of education and adaptation. Beyond immediate family, broader social networks within the band were equally crucial. Cooperation allowed for successful hunts, shared fire maintenance, and collective protection from predators. Social bonds reduce vulnerability by ensuring that no individual face extreme cold, hunger, or danger alone. Communal meals, shared resting spaces, and collaborative shelter construction reinforce trust and interdependence. In the stark contrast between the perilous environment outside and the warmth and safety within the community, the social structure became a lifeline, providing not just physical survival but psychological resilience as well. Rituals and shared activities were central to communal cohesion. Storytelling around fires allowed humans to transmit knowledge, recount past challenges, and reinforce cultural norms. Songs, chants, or symbolic gestures during hunts or feasts may have strengthened group identity and maintained morale during the long, isolating winter months. Celebrations of successful hunts or survival milestones foster a sense of achievement and gratitude, helping the group endure both scarcity and the relentless cold. Through these communal practices, early humans turned survival into a shared cultural experience, embedding social cohesion into daily life. Division of labor within the group reflected both necessity and skill. Hunters and foragers often face the dangers of the outdoors, while others focus on tool-making, clothing production, and child-rearing. Even seemingly minor roles, such as maintaining fire, carrying supplies, or preparing hides, were essential for the collective well-being. The interdependence of roles emphasized that survival was a cooperative effort, and that the success of one member contributed directly to the security and prosperity of the entire group. This balance of responsibilities highlights the sophisticated social organization and strategic planning that underpin daily life. Emotional bonds were equally important in the context of Ice Age survival. The cold, the darkness, and the omnipresent threats of predators or scarcity created high-stress conditions. Physical closeness during rest, shared labor, and communal meals fostered trust, reduce anxiety, and reinforce emotional resilience. The psychological support derived from strong family and community bonds allowed humans to endure hardships that would have been unbearable in isolation. The contrast between the dangers of the frozen world and the emotional safety within the group underscores the critical role of social connection in human survival. Knowledge transmission extended beyond practical survival skills. Social life fostered creativity, problem-solving, and innovation. Elders passed on not only hunting techniques and tool-making skills, but also strategies for coping with extreme weather, reading environmental signs, and interacting with animals. Shared experience allowed humans to learn from mistakes collectively, refining techniques and improving efficiency over generations. This cumulative knowledge formed the foundation of culture and technological advancement, illustrating how social bonds enabled humans to thrive despite the formidable challenges of winter. Gender roles likely influenced social dynamics as well. While hunting and protection often fell to certain members, gathering, caring for children, and crafting tools or clothing may have been undertaken by others. These complementary roles ensured that essential tasks were distributed according to ability, maximizing the group's survival chances. Cooperation between members with different responsibilities created a seamless integration of labor, demonstrating early human sophisticated understanding of teamwork and mutual reliance. Migration, hunting, and foraging further reinforced communal bonds. Moving through dangerous landscapes or tracking large game required coordination, communication, and trust. Shared experiences of danger and success strengthened relationships, fostering loyalty and collective identity. The unity forged in these high-stakes situations translated into daily cooperation, ensuring that every member's contribution was valued and every individual was protected. In this sense, social cohesion was both a survival strategy and a form of cultural resilience, enabling humans to navigate the harshness of the Ice Age together. Ultimately, family and social life were inseparable from survival itself. Emotional support, division of labor, knowledge transmission, rituals, and cooperative strategies created a resilient framework that allowed humans to endure extreme winters. The bonds formed in these conditions were both practical and deeply human, reflecting the interplay between biology, psychology, and culture. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, survival was never solitary. It was communal, intertwined with trust, shared effort, and the enduring power of social connection. Through these networks, humans learned to transform adversity into collaboration, fear into strategy, and isolation into belonging. The study of family and social life in prehistoric winters reveals not only how humans endured, but also how culture, cooperation, and emotional resilience emerged as defining traits of our species. Survival, warmth, nourishment, and protection were achieved not only through fire and tools, but through the unbreakable bonds forged within the family and community, turning the harshness of winter into a shared journey of life, learning, and endurance. In the harsh and unforgiving winters of the Ice Age, survival depended not only on fire, tools, and hunting skills, but also on the strength of social bonds and family structures. Early humans lived in small bands where cooperation, trust, and shared responsibilities were vital. Each member played a role, from the skilled hunters and gatherers to the elders and children who maintained knowledge, nurtured the young, and supported the daily functioning of the group. The dynamics of family and community were the invisible infrastructure of survival, turning a struggle against nature into a collective endeavor. The family unit served multiple purposes. It provided physical support, emotional reassurance, and a transmission of knowledge critical to survival. Elders, with their experience, guided decision-making for hunting, migration, and shelter building. They taught children essential skills, from crafting tools and clothing to reading animal tracks and foraging for hidden winter foods. This intergenerational knowledge transfer ensured continuity of survival strategies, strengthened social cohesion, and preserved the cultural identity of the group. Children, in turn, contributed to the group's well-being by assisting with small tasks, observing adults, and learning through participation, creating a cycle of education and adaptation. Beyond immediate family, broader social networks within the band were equally crucial. Cooperation allowed for successful hunts, shared fire maintenance, and collective protection from predators. Social bonds reduce vulnerability by ensuring that no individual face extreme cold, hunger, or danger alone. Communal meals, shared resting spaces, and collaborative shelter construction reinforce trust and interdependence. In the stark contrast between the perilous environment outside and the warmth and safety within the community, the social structure became a lifeline, providing not just physical survival but psychological resilience as well. Rituals and shared activities were central to communal cohesion. Storytelling around fires allowed humans to transmit knowledge, recount past challenges, and reinforce cultural norms. Songs, chants, or symbolic gestures during hunts or feasts may have strengthened group identity and maintained morale during the long, isolating winter months. Celebrations of successful hunts or survival milestones foster a sense of achievement and gratitude, helping the group endure both scarcity and the relentless cold. Through these communal practices, early humans turned survival into a shared cultural experience, embedding social cohesion into daily life. Division of labor within the group reflected both necessity and skill. Hunters and foragers often faced the dangers of the outdoors, while others focused on tool-making, clothing production, and child rearing. Even seemingly minor roles, such as maintaining fire, carrying supplies, or preparing hides, were essential for collective well-being. The interdependence of roles emphasized that survival was a cooperative effort, and that the success of one member contributed directly to the security and prosperity of the entire group. This balance of responsibilities highlights the sophisticated social organization and strategic planning that underpin daily life. Emotional bonds were equally important in the context of Ice Age survival. The cold, the darkness, and the omnipresent threats of predators or scarcity created high-stress conditions. Physical closeness during rest, shared labor, and communal meals fostered trust, reduce anxiety, and reinforce emotional resilience. The psychological support derived from strong family and community bonds allowed humans to endure hardships that would have been unbearable in isolation. The contrast between the dangers of the frozen world and emotional safety within the group underscores the critical role of social connection in human survival. Knowledge transmission extended beyond practical survival skills. Social life fostered creativity, problem-solving, and innovation. Elders passed on not only hunting techniques and tool-making skills, but also strategies for coping with extreme weather, reading environmental signs, and interacting with animals. Shared experience allowed humans to learn from mistakes collectively, refining techniques and improving efficiency over generations. This cumulative knowledge formed the foundation of culture and technological advancement, illustrating how social bonds enabled humans to thrive despite the formidable challenges of winter. Gender roles likely influenced social dynamics as well. While hunting and protection often fell to certain members, gathering, caring for children, and crafting tools or clothing may have been undertaken by others. These complementary roles ensured that essential tasks were distributed according to ability, maximizing the group's survival chances. Cooperation between members with differing responsibilities created a seamless integration of labor, demonstrating early human sophisticated understanding of teamwork and mutual reliance. Migration, hunting, and foraging further reinforced communal bonds. Moving through dangerous landscapes or tracking large game required coordination, communication, and trust. Shared experiences of danger and success strengthened relationships, fostering loyalty and collective identity. The unity forged in these high-stakes situations translated into daily cooperation, ensuring that every member's contribution was valued and every individual was protected. In this sense, social cohesion was both a survival strategy and a form of cultural resilience, enabling humans to navigate the harshness of the Ice Age together. Ultimately, family and social life were inseparable from survival itself. Emotional support, division of labor, knowledge transmission, rituals, and cooperative strategies created a resilient framework that allowed humans to endure extreme winters. The bonds formed in these conditions were both practical and deeply human, reflecting the interplay between biology, psychology, and culture. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, survival was never solitary. It was communal, intertwined with trust, shared effort, and the enduring power of social connection. Through these networks, humans learned to transform adversity into collaboration, fear into strategy, and isolation into belonging. The study of family and social life in prehistoric winters reveals not only how humans endured, but also how culture, cooperation, and emotional resilience emerged as defining traits of our species. Survival, warmth, nourishment, and protection were achieved not only through fire and tools, but through the unbreakable bonds forged within the family and community, turning the harshness of winter into a shared journey of life, learning, and endurance. Beyond the practical challenges of survival, the long, harsh winters of the Ice Age shaped the spiritual and cultural lives of early humans. The relentless cold, darkness, and isolation fostered a need for understanding, meaning, and connection with the forces that govern life and death. Rituals and beliefs emerge as a response to the mysteries of the environment, the uncertainty of survival, and the awe inspired by the animals and landscapes around them. Winter, with its extremes of scarcity and danger, became a powerful backdrop for the development of spirituality, communal rites, and symbolic practices that bound communities together. Animals, central to survival, also held spiritual significance. Hunters often revered the creatures they pursued, understanding that life depended on the careful balance of predator and prey. Cave paintings, carvings, and figurines suggest that early humans attributed power, personality, or sacred qualities to animals, such as mammoths, bison, and reindeer. Rituals before or after hunts, perhaps offerings, chants, or symbolic gestures, likely reflected gratitude, respect, or appeals for success. These practices highlight the intimate connection between humans and the natural world, blending necessity with reverence, and demonstrating that survival was intertwined with belief and meaning. The winter season itself may have inspired rituals tied to the cycles of nature. The shortest days, longest nights, and extreme cold create a sense of both dread and anticipation, fostering communal ceremonies to mark the passage of time. Fires, dancing, singing, and storytelling around communal hearths served as both practical and symbolic acts, celebrating endurance, reinforcing social cohesion, and imbuing daily survival with a sense of purpose. Winter rituals also help mitigate the psychological strain of scarcity, isolation, and exposure, transforming fear into shared resilience and reinforcing collective identity. Burial practices provide further insight into early spiritual beliefs. Evidence from Ice Age sites suggests that humans carefully place the dead, sometimes accompanied by tools, animal remains, or personal ornaments. Such practices indicate reverence for the deceased and a belief in life beyond death, reflecting an early understanding of continuity and the sacredness of life. Winter, with its extreme mortality risks, likely intensified the importance of these rituals, as each death underscored the fragility of life and the necessity of community care and remembrance. These ceremonies connected the living with the dead, reinforcing social bonds and the transmission of knowledge across generations. Symbolism extended beyond animals and death to the broader environment. Natural formations such as caves, cliffs, or water sources were often imbued with spiritual significance, serving as sites for ritual, reflection, or artistic expression. The interplay of light, shadow, and natural features within caves may have inspired awe, narrative, and communal gatherings. Humans use these spaces not only for practical shelter, but as stages for cultural and spiritual expression, blending survival with meaning and transforming the landscape into a living canvas of belief. Rituals also strengthened social cohesion and transmitted knowledge. Shared ceremonies provided a structured context for teaching, storytelling, and reinforcing cultural norms. Through ritual, knowledge of hunting techniques, foraging strategies, and environmental cues could be embedded in symbolic acts, ensuring that practical skills were passed down alongside spiritual understanding. Winter ceremonies likely emphasize collective endurance, gratitude for resources, and preparation for the coming seasons, embedding survival lessons in the rhythm of cultural practice. The psychological benefits of ritual were profound. In the darkness and cold, when the threats of predators, hunger, and exposure loomed large, communal rites offered reassurance, focus, and a sense of control. Structured activities created predictability and stability, reducing stress and anxiety, while shared symbolic meaning fostered hope and collective morale. This blending of practical and spiritual function demonstrates that early humans did not separate survival from culture. Rituals became both a psychological anchor and a reinforcement of social order. Rituals may have also included the use of art and personal adornment. Cave paintings, carvings, beads, and decorative clothing suggest that aesthetics and symbolism were intertwined with survival. Such expressions reinforce group identity, mark significant events, and possibly invoke spiritual protection or favor. Winter, with its prolonged inactivity and darkness, provided time for creative expression, reflection, and the development of cultural identity. These artistic practices reveal a sophisticated interplay of imagination, observation, and ritualized meaning within the context of daily survival. Fire, central to physical survival, also played a spiritual role. Flames illuminated caves, hearths, and gathering spaces, symbolizing life, warmth, and protection. Ceremonial use of fire, perhaps in dances, storytelling, or ritual offerings, blended the practical and the sacred. The fire became a metaphor for resilience, continuity, and human mastery over nature, reinforcing both survival and cultural expression. In the contrast between the harsh cold outside and the protective glow within, fire symbolized hope, endurance, and communal strength. Ultimately, rituals and winter spirituality illustrate the profound capacity of early humans to find meaning in adversity. Survival was never purely mechanical. It was a holistic process integrating physical, social, and psychological strategies. Rituals created cohesion, transmitted knowledge, reinforced identity, and transformed fear and scarcity into structured, meaningful practices. Winter, with its extremes, intensified these needs, shaping a rich cultural and spiritual life that complemented the practical aspects of survival. In conclusion, the rituals, beliefs, and winter spirituality of Ice Age humans reveal a species that was both resourceful and reflective. While hunting, foraging, and tool-making ensured physical survival, ritualized acts, reverence for animals, and communal ceremonies ensured psychological resilience, social cohesion, and cultural continuity. Through these practices, humans transcended the immediate challenges of cold, darkness, and scarcity, finding meaning, connection, and hope. Winter was not merely a season to endure. It was a canvas upon which early humans expressed ingenuity, reverence, and the enduring human spirit, blending survival with culture, fear with wonder, and life with meaning. Beyond the practical challenges of survival, the long, harsh winters of the Ice Age shaped the spiritual and cultural lives of early humans. The relentless cold, darkness, and isolation fostered a need for understanding, meaning, and connection with the forces that govern life and death. Rituals and beliefs emerge as a response to the mysteries of the environment, the uncertainty of survival, and the awe inspired by the animals and landscapes around them. Winter, with its extremes of scarcity and danger, became a powerful backdrop for the development of spirituality, communal rites, and symbolic practices that bound communities together. Animals, central to survival, also held spiritual significance. Hunters often revered the creatures they pursued, understanding that life depended on the careful balance of predator and prey. Cave paintings, carvings, and figurines suggest that early humans attributed power, personality, or sacred qualities to animals such as mammoths, bison, and reindeer. Rituals before or after hunts, perhaps offerings, chants, or symbolic gestures, likely reflected gratitude, respect, or appeals for success. These practices highlight the intimate connection between humans and the natural world, blending necessity with reverence, and demonstrating that survival was intertwined with belief and meaning. The winter season itself may have inspired rituals tied to the cycles of nature. The shortest days, longest nights, and extreme cold create a sense of both dread and anticipation, fostering communal ceremonies to mark the passage of time. Fires, dancing, singing, and storytelling around communal hearths served as both practical and symbolic acts, celebrating endurance, reinforcing social cohesion, and imbuing daily survival with a sense of purpose. Winter rituals also helped mitigate the psychological strain of scarcity, isolation, and exposure, transforming fear into shared resilience and reinforcing collective identity. Burial practices provide further insight into early spiritual beliefs. Evidence from Ice Age sites suggests that humans carefully place the dead, sometimes accompanied by tools, animal remains, or personal ornaments. Such practices indicate reverence for the deceased and a belief in life beyond death, reflecting an early understanding of continuity and the sacredness of life. Winter, with its extreme mortality risks, likely intensified the importance of these rituals, as each death underscored the fragility of life and the necessity of community care and remembrance. These ceremonies connected the living with the dead, reinforcing social bonds and the transmission of knowledge across generations. Symbolism extended beyond animals and death to the broader environment. Natural formations such as caves, cliffs, or water sources were often imbued with spiritual significance, serving as sites for ritual, reflection, or artistic expression. The interplay of light, shadow, and natural features within caves may have inspired awe, narrative, and communal gatherings. Humans use these spaces not only for practical shelter, but as stages for cultural and spiritual expression, blending survival with meaning and transforming the landscape into a living canvas of belief. Rituals also strengthened social cohesion and transmitted knowledge. Shared ceremonies provided a structured context for teaching, storytelling, and reinforcing cultural norms. Through ritual, knowledge of hunting techniques, foraging strategies, and environmental cues could be embedded in symbolic acts, ensuring that practical skills were passed down alongside spiritual understanding. Winter ceremonies likely emphasized collective endurance, gratitude for resources, and preparation for the coming seasons, embedding survival lessons in the rhythm of cultural practice. The psychological benefits of ritual were profound. In the darkness and cold, when the threats of predators, hunger, and exposure loomed large, communal rites offered reassurance, focus, and a sense of control. Structured activities created predictability and stability, reducing stress and anxiety, while shared symbolic meaning fostered hope and collective morale. This blending of practical and spiritual function demonstrates that early humans did not separate survival from culture. Rituals became both a psychological anchor and a reinforcement of social order. Rituals may have also included the use of art and personal adornment. Cave paintings, carvings, beads, and decorative clothing suggest that aesthetics and symbolism were intertwined with survival. Such expressions reinforce group identity, mark significant events, and possibly invoke spiritual protection or favor. Winter, with its prolonged inactivity and darkness, provided time for creative expression, reflection, and the development of cultural identity. These artistic practices reveal a sophisticated interplay of imagination, observation, and ritualized meaning within the context of daily survival. Fire, central to physical survival, also played a spiritual role. Flames illuminated caves, hearths, and gathering spaces, symbolizing life, warmth, and protection. Ceremonial use of fire, perhaps in dances, storytelling, or ritual offerings, blended the practical and the sacred. The fire became a metaphor for resilience, continuity, and human mastery over nature, reinforcing both survival and cultural expression. In the contrast between a harsh cold outside and a protective glow within, fire symbolized hope, endurance, and communal strength. Ultimately, rituals and winter spirituality illustrate the profound capacity of early humans to find meaning in adversity. Survival was never purely mechanical. It was a holistic process integrating physical, social, and psychological strategies. Rituals created cohesion, transmitted knowledge, reinforced identity, and transformed fear and scarcity into structured, meaningful practices. Winter, with its extremes, intensified these needs, shaping a rich cultural and spiritual life that complemented the practical aspects of survival. In conclusion, the rituals, beliefs, and winter spirituality of Ice Age humans reveal a species that was both resourceful and reflective. While hunting, foraging, and tool-making ensured physical survival, ritualized acts, reverence for animals, and communal ceremonies ensured psychological resilience, social cohesion, and cultural continuity. Through these practices, humans transcended the immediate challenges of cold, darkness, and scarcity, finding meaning, connection, and hope. Winter was not merely a season to endure. It was a canvas upon which early humans expressed ingenuity, reverence, and enduring human spirit, blending survival with culture, fear with wonder, and life with meaning. The harsh winters of the Ice Age shaped more than the physical survival of early humans. They forged skills, social structures, and cultural practices that would leave a lasting imprint on the trajectory of human civilization. Every fire built, every tool crafted, and every hunt undertaken was a lesson in ingenuity, adaptability, and resilience. The ability to endure extreme cold, scarce resources, and relentless predators required a combination of intelligence, cooperation, and foresight. These lessons, honed over millennia, continue to resonate, offering modern humanity insights into resourcefulness, communal living, and the balance between survival and culture. One of the most enduring legacies of Ice Age survival is the emphasis on cooperation and social cohesion. Early humans thrived not through individual strength alone, but through collective effort, shared knowledge, and mutual support. Hunting in groups, maintaining communal fires, constructing shelters, and caring for the vulnerable all reinforce the value of collaboration. Modern societies, though technologically advanced, still rely on the principles of cooperation established during these prehistoric winters. The Ice Age demonstrates that shared effort, trust, and coordination remain as essential now as they were tens of thousands of years ago. Adaptability, both environmental and cognitive, was another critical lesson. Humans constantly adjusted to changing conditions, tracking migrations, storing food, inventing new tools, and refining survival strategies. This ability to innovate in response to uncertainty allowed early humans to not only survive, but to expand into new territories and climates. Today, adaptability remains a core human strength, whether in the face of climate change, technological disruption, or global crises. The example of Ice Age survival shows that flexibility, observation, and learning from one's environment are timeless strategies for enduring challenges. The mastery of resources, fire, tools, clothing, and shelter, illustrates the importance of understanding and leveraging one's environment. Early humans optimized every available material, turning stones into blades, bones into needles, and animal hides into insulated garments. They transformed scarcity into opportunity, demonstrating that intelligence and creativity can extend the limits of human capability. For modern audiences, this underscores the enduring value of resourcefulness, sustainability, and the mindful use of available tools and knowledge. Survival depends not merely on abundance, but on the skillful application of what is at hand. Rituals, art, and spiritual practices from the Ice Age also provide lasting lessons. Early humans integrated culture and meaning into their daily survival, using storytelling, cave paintings, and ceremonies to reinforce social bonds and transmit knowledge. This blending of practical and symbolic life highlights the human need for connection, identity, and purpose, even in the most extreme circumstances. Today, culture continues to sustain communities, provide emotional resilience, and offer frameworks for understanding the world, reminding us that survival is as much psychological and social as it is physical. The emphasis on observation and learning from a natural world is another enduring principle. Tracking animals, reading weather patterns, and interpreting seasonal cues required careful attention, memory, and reasoning. Early humans became keen students of their environment, understanding cycles, patterns, and cause and effect relationships. In a modern context, this legacy emphasizes the importance of observation, ecological awareness, and scientific reasoning. By studying and respecting our surroundings, humans continue to navigate challenges effectively, just as their Ice Age ancestors did. The psychological resilience cultivated during the Ice Age is equally instructive. Facing constant threats, humans developed vigilance, patience, and problem-solving abilities, while communal support mitigated fear and stress. Modern societies still benefit from similar strategies. Mental fortitude, preparation, and social support networks enhance the capacity to withstand crises. The balance between individual skill and collective reinforcement, honed during winter survival, remains a blueprint for coping with adversity. Winter survival also emphasized planning, foresight, and resource management. Food caching, fire maintenance, and the coordination of season migrations required long-term thinking and strategic allocation of resources. This forward-looking approach is mirrored today in fields ranging from agriculture to disaster preparedness, demonstrating that human survival has always relied on the combination of immediate action and long-term planning. Ice Age strategies remind us that foresight, preparation, and adaptability are essential for both survival and progress. The integration of technology, social cooperation, and cultural practices underscores a fundamental lesson. Human resilience is multifaceted. Survival was never dependent on a single skill or tool. It was a holistic approach, combining observation, ingenuity, cooperation, and ritual. Modern humans, facing complex global challenges, can draw inspiration from this integrated approach. The Ice Age teaches that resilience arises from the interplay of intelligence, social bonds, cultural practices, and adaptive technologies. Finally, the legacy of Ice Age survival reminds us of the delicate balance between humans and the natural world. Early humans relied on animals, plants, and environmental cues not as conquerors, but as participants in an interconnected ecosystem. Respect for the rhythms of nature, careful management of resources, and understanding ecological interdependence were critical for survival. Modern humanity, too, faces the consequences of disrupting this balance. Lessons from the Ice Age encourage sustainable interaction with the environment, showing that long-term survival depends on harmony, respect, and mindful adaptation. In conclusion, the story of Ice Age winter survival is a story of ingenuity, endurance, and the human spirit. It encompasses fire mastery, tool-making, clothing, social cohesion, rituals, and adaptability, all woven together into a tapestry of resilience. Early humans turned scarcity into opportunity, danger into strategy, and adversity into culture. For modern humanity, these lessons remain profoundly relevant. Cooperation, innovation, cultural richness, ecological awareness, and psychological resilience are timeless principles for enduring challenges, both natural and societal. The frozen landscapes of the Ice Age may seem distant, but their legacy lives on in every aspect of human life. From our ability to cooperate and innovate to our capacity for culture, observation, and psychological endurance, the echoes of prehistoric survival shape who we are today. The story of humans in wintered Ice Age landscapes reminds us that life's most extreme challenges can catalyze growth, creativity, and connection. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity, a spirit that turns fear into courage, scarcity into ingenuity, and the harshest winters into lessons that continue to illuminate our path forward.